Buenos días a todas las personas que se están conectando en este momento. Hoy iniciamos la semana conociendo universidades de Suecia. Esperamos que sea de gran utilidad, que puedan conocer todos los convenios que tenemos disponibles con estas universidades y específicamente el día de hoy nos acompaña María, quien es representante de Lund University. Nos estará contando acerca de la oferta académica que tienen disponible, cómo pueden iniciar su proceso de postulación y adicionalmente nos estarán contando acerca de algunas opciones de financiación que también tendrán disponibles. Y por supuesto nos contarán sobre el descuento que actualmente tienen con Colfuturo, el convenio, que es un descuento del 25% sobre el valor de la matrícula para 10 beneficiarios de Colfuturo. Más adelante también vamos a tener a una beneficiaria que está estudiando en esta universidad y nos va a contar un poco de su experiencia. Su nombre es Catalina, pero se conectará en un momento. Desde la historia de Colfuturo hemos seleccionado a más o menos 56 personas con esta universidad y específicamente este año seleccionamos a 5 personas. Entonces esperamos que sea de gran utilidad para ustedes toda esta información. Y al final vamos a tener un pequeño espacio de preguntas y respuestas. Entonces, si a lo largo de la charla van surgiendo dudas, preguntas, pueden escribirlas en el chat que está en la parte inferior de Q&A. Thank you so much, Maria, for joining us. You can start.
Thank you so much, Alejandra, and thank you, Colfaturo, and thank you so much for the invitation. I'm very happy to be here today, and thank you, of course, to the participants who've shown interest in learning a little bit more about Lund University. My name is Maria Lindblad, and I work as an international marketing manager at Lund University. And I work specifically for students applying from North America and South America. So all of the Americas is my responsibility. And normally I also travel to Colombia to meet with students in person. Of course, the last couple of years, we haven't been able to travel, but I hope I will be back very soon to meet with you all in person as well. I'm going to start by giving a short introduction about the university and talk a little bit more what Lund University is all about, what kind of offers we have, and what the process looks like. And a little bit later, we will also be joined by Catalina, as Alejandra mentioned already, who is one of our students who just graduated this year and who has also been studying at Lund University and received funding from Colfuturo. So she will share a little bit about her experience. I will jump in here and start sharing my presentation. And I hope that everybody can see that. So let's get started. First of all, I want to zoom in a little bit about and to talk about where we are, where can you find Lund University, what's special about this area, where the university is. So as you can see here on the map, we're zooming into Scandinavia in Northern Europe. And you see the ring, the circle on the map, that is the area called the Greater Copenhagen area. And this area includes, of course, Copenhagen, which is the capital of our neighboring country, Denmark. And also this area includes Malmö, which is the third largest city in Sweden. And it includes the city of Lund, which is the main campus of the area of the university, and also the city of Helsingborg, which is another of our campus locations. So Lund University has campuses in Malmö, Helsingborg, and Lund. And we are all a part of this area called the Greater Copenhagen area. And the reason why I wanted to zoom in on the whole area here is because this is a very special region that is extremely dynamic and fast growing at the moment. So in this region, you'll find around 4 million inhabitants, over 10,000 researchers, 140,000 students, and multiple incubators, and there are also 13 higher education institutions. So there's a lot of knowledge-based organizations happening here, a lot of research happening, and higher education in this area. And Lund University is a very important player in that area. Some short facts about the university as well. So Lund University is one of the largest and oldest universities in Scandinavia. We were founded in 1666, so we've been around for more than 350 years at this point. We have 46,000 students from all over the world. I'll get into that a little bit more in a moment. About 8,400 staff members across our 9 faculties, and together they offer 275 different study programs. So as you understand, we are a comprehensive university. The 9 faculties represent all subject areas. So we have engineering, we have business, we have humanities, we have social sciences, we have law, we have medicine, we have fine and performing arts. We have, what else did I not say now? Science, of course. So it's a very broad scale university, and we offer programs in all of these areas, as well as research. We're also a top-ranked university in the world, so we are recognized as one of the world's top 100 universities, and it's around 17,000 universities in the world that are internationally recognized and ranked, and we are among the top 100 of those. Lund is also the most popular choice in Sweden, so when we look at all the international students coming to study in Sweden, Lund is the university that gets the most applicants from all over the world. And that is actually my next point here. Lund University is an extremely international university. Around 46% of our PhD students are international, and around 60% of our master students are international students. And we have students on campus from around 130 different countries, or of 130 different nationalities, I should say. They all come from different countries. So you will really find students representing all areas in terms of the subjects, and also the countries that they come from, and the languages that they speak, and their interest areas. And you will find this not only in the education itself, but also as a part of the student life, because we have a lot of student organizations and student associations, and these can also be divided by region. So for example, we have, I think it's 3 student associations right now that are for students from Latin America that have different focus areas. So you'll definitely find other students, both from Colombia and from other countries in Latin America, who are on the same journey as you, if you choose to come to Lund University to study. When it comes to the actual courses and the subjects and the education that we offer, we have one of the widest ranges in Scandinavia when it comes to the courses. And the reason for this is because, as you saw in the numbers, it's a huge university. We have 9 faculties, so we are comprehensive, and we have studies in all of these fields. So that means we can offer a very wide range of courses. And you saw before there, we have over 275 different study programs, study opportunities in terms of degrees that we offer. All of our programs have a very strong focus on research, because we do have a focus at the university as a whole on our research. It is a very strong research university. So all of our education has an element of research embedded into the education itself. And all of the courses, I will be talking about that in a moment, also have an element where you have to write a thesis and you have to do your own research as a part of the education. So that is a very strong focus at the university. And even though we have 46,000 students, the majority, or the main part of our budget at the university still goes into the research. So about 2/3 of our budget is focused for the research at the university. So that gives you some idea of the scale of that research. And just as with the education, the research also goes across all the faculties and all the subject areas. And we offer about 30 world-leading research environments within the university. And then in extension, we are connected to other research organizations and science parks and research organizations that are located in Lund and around our campus areas. So if you as a student want to come to Lund to study a master's program, and then you want to have the opportunity to progress to PhD studies, there will be plenty of possibilities to do that, and to also join research groups or maybe work part-time together with a research group as a part of your studies at the university. So I really want to highlight that focus that we have on research. But jumping in a little bit more to talk about the programs and the master's programs, which I'm going to focus on today. So we offer at the university around 130 different international master's programs. And these are programs that are open to international students from all over the world. These programs are in all the subject areas. So unfortunately, I can't list them all here. It's too big to fit on the slides here. But we have master's programs in all of the subject areas that I mentioned before. So engineering, business and management, humanities, social sciences, law, medicine, and so on. All of these subjects, all of these faculties have international master's programs. And the master's programs are many times unique. Some of them you'll find at other universities, but some of them are very unique. And that is because they are usually evolved through our research. So it's not that we just create a program to create a program, but we actually have often started with a research project, and then after some time, the researchers are working together. They say, oh, maybe we should start a master's in this field. And so the master's programs are developed from our strong research areas that we have at the university. So that's why many of the programs are unique. And also when you have an interdisciplinary university, or a university that is comprehensive rather, you automatically can create a lot of interdisciplinary programs. So a lot of our programs are also mixed between different disciplines and across different faculties, so that you can really get different perspectives on the programs and on the subjects. This means also that for some of our programs, they are quite open in their entry requirements, meaning that you can have different backgrounds and change your major or your main topic for the master's. Not for the majority of the programs, but for some of these programs that are interdisciplinary, there is that opportunity as well to switch and to get into a program. For example, if you're interested in studying environmental studies or environmental management, that is a program that you can approach from many different disciplines and from many different perspectives. So whether you are a business student or an engineer or a social science student, though, you can use that background to study something like development or environment. And obviously these are subjects that we're also quite famous for in Sweden. So we do have a lot of unique programs on offer there. So a little bit more about our master's programs, so that you understand also how they are structured and how it works. So as I mentioned, we offer over 130 English taught master's programs across all of these subjects. Most of these programs are 2 years. That is the normal standard time for a master's. But it's also possible to do some of these master's programs in 1 year. These are mainly the master's programs in management, for example, some of the business programs that are more targeted at students who are already perhaps working and they need to get that higher education. They want to get a master's, they want to advance within their career and then come back to work and into the work market quickly. So they are more intense and shorter, whereas the 2-year programs are more common in other subjects, and where you spend more time doing a research project, and where you also have some time to do perhaps elective courses or a project abroad, for example, or an internship. As I already mentioned, many of the programs are unique and interdisciplinary, and many of the programs offer opportunities to do, for example, an internship or study abroad option usually within the 3rd semester. All of our master's programs are very well connected to the industry, meaning that you will be very up to date in what's happening out in that industry during your studies. So it's not that you study for 2 years and then you come out and the world has changed, but you're very much interacting with the outside world during your studies as well. And we have guest lecturers coming in, and we have the teachers who are also researchers and working in many cases also outside of the programs, so they can bring the most recent research into the studies directly as well. And all of our masters prepare you for PhD studies. So if you are interested in continuing on with research or an academic career, you would be eligible to apply for those positions as they come up as well within Lund University or other universities. As I already mentioned, I can't list all the 130 programs here, but if you want to see a full list of all of our programs, you have the link here below, lunduniversity.lu.se/programs. And there you can see the full list of all the programs that we offer, and also the entry requirements and the overview of the programs and the documents you need and all of that. So there will be a detailed description with all the information that you need in order to apply and to check what the program is all about on our website there. A little bit more practical information to describe the process. So in Sweden, we have a national application system. This means that you don't apply directly to Lund University, but you apply on a national portal. And this portal is called universityadmissions.se. So this is the website where all students from all over the world go in to apply to a master's program in Sweden. And you can select up to 4 programs in your application. So if you find several programs that you're interested in, you can choose more than one in your application. Just make sure that you place them in the right order, that you rank them in the order of your preference when you apply, because you can only get admission to one of the programs. But you are free to choose 1, 2, 3, or 4 programs with your application. Because we have this national system, you can only apply during the specific application period, and that is between mid-October and mid-January. So every year between mid-October and mid-January is when the main international application round is open. So that is when you go on this website, universityadmissions.se, and make your online application. And then you also have instructions there for how to submit the documents and what documents you need. So this is a very important website to make a note of. Another question that I'm sure you all will have is about funding and costs. And we are here with Kolfaturo, obviously. So we're going to talk a little bit about the funding, but first I want to start to talk about the costs and how much money you actually need to study a master's in Sweden and at Lund University specifically. So first of all, when it comes to the actual tuition fee of the program, this is specific to the individual programs. As I already mentioned, we have over 130 different masters. So you have to check the masters that you're interested in to check the specific cost of that program, because it's not the same for all of the programs. However, I can say that most of them cost between $12,800 per year up to around $24,000 per year for the more expensive programs in art and architecture and design and so on, where more equipment is needed. So you can go on the program website to find out exactly what the tuition fee is for your specific program. And you pay the tuition fees in installments 1 semester in advance. So you pay, if you're doing a 2-year master's, you would pay 4 times in total. And as I mentioned here on the third point, most of the programs are in the range between $14,000 and $18,000. You do pay in the Swedish currency, but as I'm not sure if you're familiar with that, I put the prices here in US dollars because that might be easier for you. In addition to the tuition fees, you of course need to have the funding for your living costs in Sweden to cover things like accommodation and books and food. and all the other activities that you want to do around your studies. And we recommend that you have around $1,000 or the equivalent of $1,000 per month to cover all of these costs. And please note that when you are coming to Sweden, you also need to apply for a residence permit to stay in Sweden with the Swedish Migration Agency. And they also have a minimum requirement when it comes to your funding and how much money you need to have in order to support yourself in Sweden. So this is good for you to make a note of so that you know roughly what to expect in terms of costs. Now, if you cannot manage these costs on your own, there are, of course, opportunities for funding, as you know, since you're here with Kolfuturo, and also there are other opportunities that the university offers as well. So Lund University has the most extensive scholarship program in Sweden, which is called the Lund University Global Scholarship. So all international students, non-EU international students, are very welcome to apply to this scholarship program. And you do that after you have applied for your studies. And this scholarship is merit-based and selective, and it can cover a part of the tuition fee and up to almost the full tuition fee if you are very lucky. In most cases, it covers a smaller part of the tuition fee for those who are selected. But everybody is welcome to apply for that. There are also other scholarships that you may be eligible for that are offered by the national organizations. There's an organization called the Swedish Institute, and they also offer scholarships for international students coming to study at universities in Sweden. And it is open for students from Colombia, but they do have specific requirements. So be careful to make sure that you meet these requirements before you make that application. And obviously, as you know, we also have a funding agreement with Kolfuturo that Alejandra mentioned already. I'm not going to get into any more details than what is mentioned here today. And if you have more questions about the actual application, you should address that to Kolfuturo, of course. But I just wanted to mention that this agreement means that students who are selected for the Kolfuturo funding and are beneficiaries will receive 25% scholarship from Lund University that is deducted from the tuition fee. And this is up to a maximum of 10 students. It is also included insurance, and you would also have a housing guarantee. Just make a note that this does not mean that housing is included. You still have to pay your rent, but you do have a guarantee of housing. And most of our students actually do not, and they need to find their own housing. So this is a huge benefit to have in a small university town such as Lund. Now, I want to finish up actually with a timeline just to summarize all of this. I've talked a little bit about the university and about our programs and the costs and so on, but I want to get into the timeline so that you get an overview of when different things could and should and need to be done. So if you're watching this today and you're curious and you want to know more and you're thinking about applying to Lund later this year, this is the order in which you can do things. So what you can do right now basically is to start exploring our programs, to go to our website, check our lists of 130 different master's programs, and check carefully that you meet the entry requirements of the program that you're interested in. And also start thinking about the planning, because start thinking about the funding and planning that early on, because even if you plan on applying to Kolfuturo, you plan on applying for our scholarship and maybe also the Swedish scholarship, note that all of these are selective. And there's no guarantee that you would be selected for any of those options. So it's very important to have a backup plan and to think this through and to maybe apply to different scholarships as well, so that you are sure that if you are offered admission, you actually have the opportunity to pursue those studies as planned. Those are the things you can start looking into already at this point. One important thing that you can also do very early is to check if you have the required proof of English language proficiency, because if you don't and you need to take a test such as an IELTS or a TOEFL, this is the time to start booking that, because these time slots fill up quite quickly. And sometimes students are not able to get a time until months ahead. And then the testing takes a few days or 10 days before you get the results, and so on. So please make sure that you plan this so you can have everything ready on time. As I already mentioned, the actual application period is from mid-October to mid-January. So that is when you go online and complete the application online and start submitting your documents. By the 1st of February, your application needs to be complete. This means that we need all your documents, including any English tests, and it's also the deadline to pay the application fee. And this must be done by this date, otherwise you miss that whole year, that whole cycle. And remember to also check deadlines and documents for any funding that you are applying to. Get in contact with Colfaturo if you're applying for their funding to ask when is the appropriate time for you to apply for that. If you want to apply to the Lund University Scholarship or the Swedish Institute Scholarship, you do that in February after you have made the application for studies. You cannot do it before, you cannot do it while you are applying for studies. You have to make a complete application for studies first, and then you can do that application for the scholarship. The admission results are announced in early April. And as soon as you get that, that's when you can start activating the other processes, such as applying for a residence permit, which you should also do as soon as possible when you know that you have been admitted, because this process can take several months to complete, or to get the results rather. You should also apply for housing. Remember that I mentioned that you would have a housing guarantee, but in order to activate that, you still need to apply for housing. And this is something that happens in early May. By the 20th of May is the deadline to either pay tuition if you don't have a scholarship, or if you are lucky and you have received funding through Colfaturo or other funding, you need to prove so by that deadline as well. And after that, you can relax a little bit more and start with other preparations of moving to Sweden before the semester starts in late August. And we also have an introduction, arrival day, and orientation weeks from mid-August up until the studies start. So that's pretty much the timeline, and it's roughly the same every single year. We do not have a big intake for spring. We often get that question. So in case somebody's wondering, well, I want to start in spring instead. Most of our programs actually do not start in spring. They only start once a year. So this is the main cycle that you should focus on in terms of when you should apply. So I hope that was enough to spark some curiosity about Lund and about Sweden. And I have the link here again, so you can go to our website to find out more. There's also a virtual tour on our website. I didn't include that here now, but it's quite a big virtual tour where you can go in and have a look at the different departments and buildings and walk around campus, so you can get a feeling of what it looks like at the university as well. And of course, you can find all the information there about documents, about the programs, entry requirements, tuition fees, and all the things that I mentioned in the presentation. I'm very happy to take questions already today during the webinar, but if you have questions later on, I also want to share my email here in case anything comes up later on. You're welcome to contact me at any time, and my email address here. And I also have one of our students, or former students at this point, Catalina, with me, who is here to share a little bit about her experience. But that's it in terms of my presentation. So thank you for listening to that.
Thank you so much, Maria. This was amazing. We do have a couple of questions in our Q&A chat. Before we go through them, I was wondering if you can give our attendees some advice on how to prepare for what they want to study, especially as international students, if there's any kind of advice that you can give them. that would be great. And then we can go on to the questions.
Yeah, that's a great question. Thank you. Well, I think the best preparation is really a little bit what I talked about there, to check carefully that you understand the requirements and that you meet them, and also check at the documents, because each program will have some program specific documents that they want you to submit with your application. And that could be, for example, a statement of purpose or a recommendation letter or other documents that they ask for. And that's something that I would advise students to think about quite early on, because those are actually very important in the selection. So it's one thing that we have, official documents, obviously you need your transcript and your diploma and all of that, but also these documents where you have a chance to sort of market yourself a little bit more and write more about yourself. And these can weigh as heavily as up to 30% of the selection criteria. So it's quite a big deal, especially maybe if you're interested in changing tracks, or you're interested in one of these more interdisciplinary programs. Then it will be extra important to be able to sort of argue your case. Okay, I'm an engineer, but now I want to study public health. Like, why? And what's your thought behind that? And so on. And so I would really urge students to take some time and think about that, and how they really want to market themselves to the program manager who will be doing the selection. And then just practical details, like I mentioned, make sure you meet the English requirements and that you book this test. We get so many emails from students preparing everything, submitting documents, paying the application fee even. And then they tell us, oh, but I'm taking the test in April. That's okay, right? They kind of just assume that they can submit that later. And then we're like, no, sorry. And then they miss the whole application round. And it's such a shame. So just make sure that you're ready. That's what I would say.
Thank you so much, Maria. So we have a couple of questions here. Someone is asking if they can study and work at the same time.
Yeah, that is possible. It is legal, it's allowed, and it's okay if you can plan your time. Obviously, your main focus needs to be the studies, but if you can manage, for example, working part-time, some evenings or holidays or weekends, it's totally fine to do so. I do want to say, though, that Lund is quite a small town, and even the nearby cities of Helsingborg and Malmö is slightly bigger, but it's still relatively kind of small. And there's a lot of competition for part-time work, because we have 46,000 students, and there are other universities in the area as well. So it can be quite tough to find a part-time job. So it's not something that a student should sort of just count on, like, oh, I'll get there and I'll find a job and it will all be fine. You're very welcome to do it. And if you are able to find something, great, but don't have that as your main plan for funding. And also note that the migration agency does require that you have the funding for your living costs before you come to Sweden. So you can't actually get to Sweden without having that funding already in advance. But yes, it is allowed. And if you manage to find a job, that's great. And I would urge you to get in contact with some of our current international students. We have a Unibuddy program, so it's quite easy to just chat online with some of our current students and ask them, do you have a part-time job? How did you get it? What did you do? Maybe they have some tips to share where you can be active, where you can network, and where you should look for part-time jobs.
Wonderful, thank you. And I think your answer ties in with the next question that we have. Someone is asking where they can find accommodation options. I'm sure the university has options. But yeah, connecting with alumni or current students is also a great way to find accommodation, part-time work. But if you can go a little bit into depth with accommodation, that would be great.
Yeah, so I wish I could say that we have housing for everyone. That's not the case, unfortunately. We have a system in Sweden where the universities cannot own and run a housing business as such. So we're kind of dependent on other providers. And that means that housing is limited. You are lucky, though, as non-European students, you do have a housing guarantee. And I mentioned also, if you're coming with a Col Futuro agreement, you do have a housing guarantee. So all you have to do is apply for one of the housing options that we offer through our service called LU accommodation, or Lund University accommodation. And you can choose between different housing areas, different types of housing. It could be a corridor room, it could be a studio or shared apartment, and you will be offered housing. If you, for some reason, do not have a housing guarantee, for example, I know that we have many students coming from Colombia who are European citizens, and they do not have a housing guarantee. And in that case, it will be up to you to find your own housing. But obviously, as you mentioned already, we have many ways to give you tips and ideas of where you can look. You can connect to other students. You can reach out to other incoming students, see if you can share something together. We have the student union website, and they have a housing service where they help students as well to find housing. We have the Academic Society, who also offers housing every year for the incoming students. So there's certainly a lot of options around, but the best thing is if you have a housing guarantee. So for non-EU students, you're all set. For EU students, you need to be a little bit more active in your housing search.
That's great. Well, that's very good news for us international students.
Yeah.
That's wonderful. Thank you so much. And then there's a question here. They're asking if the university has additional benefits with food, transportation, etc. I'm assuming maybe they were asking about maybe student discounts or campus transportation.
Yeah, certainly. We do have, so once you get to Lund, you generally join one of the student organizations, because that's how you get a part of the student life, and you get a student card. And with this card, you get discounts on public transportation, but also on a lot of other things, like different shops, different events, different products, restaurants and bars as well within the region. So there's certainly student discounts. But I do want to say that when it comes to transportation, many cases students don't really need that because it's a small town. So students who are studying in Lund or in Malmö or in Helsingborg, they can get around on foot or by bicycle within the towns themselves. If you want to go between the towns, obviously you need to commute either with a train or bus. And then you get a discount on the public transportation system. But most students simply buy a used bike at the start of the semester, and they bike around because it's very easy to get around, and you can get from one end of Lund to the other in 20 minutes on a bicycle. So it's very easy that way. And Malmö is, like I said, a little bit bigger, but still you can bike definitely from your accommodation to your class, and the same in Helsingborg, the campus there. Yeah, so we do have that. Another thing I wanted to mention, since you mentioned the discounts and food and so on, unlike in some countries, we don't have like a large cantina or a place where all students go to eat. So most students actually bring their own food. They make like they prepare something at home, and then there are microwaves all over, so you can just heat up your food, or if you bring a salad or something. But there are also cafeterias and small shops that offer student discounts, so you can get something to eat that doesn't cost too much. But I do recommend cooking. That will save you a lot of money.
Oh yes, absolutely. Thank you so much. Going back to working and studying at the same time, we have a very specific question about someone asking if there are research assistant positions or maybe teaching assistant positions at the university.
Mm-hmm. Yes and no. So basically, I know that in some countries, this is a very common setup. Like they have regular offerings of you can be a teaching assistant or a research assistant. In Sweden, this is not quite the same, because all of the students who are studying at a higher level, at a PhD level, they are employed by the university. So they are not students in the traditional sense, and they are students, but they are actually employed. So they are also staff members. This means that the department already has all of those resources. So the PhD students are all working outside of the research and the courses they are doing. They are also doing either administrative work for the department or teaching or being research assistants. So a lot of that is already covered. So usually the departments don't also need to hire the master students. However, of course, there are bigger research projects, or there are, you know, sudden projects or funding that comes in and they need extra help, or you might be interested in a particular research area and are able to make that connection that ties in to your master thesis, for example, and that way you get a position, or you can help out in a research project. So there are definitely master students who have these kind of positions, but it's not something that we sort of offer at scale at a regular basis. So most of our students who have part-time jobs, they work outside of the university.
Wonderful. And then we have someone asking about the requirements of the scholarship that you were mentioning, specifically about grades. Is there any estimate on what kind of grades you're looking for that kind of scholarship?
Not really. I mean, there's not a specific percentage or anything like that. It is obviously for top performing students, but it's not, it's more of an holistic selection, because the program itself might have different selection criteria. For example, they might be interested in students who have, yes, of course, good grades and a great academic track record, but it might also be that they consider their statement of purpose, their motivation, their intentions, their recommendation letters as a part of the selection to the program. And then those things would also be considered as a selection for the scholarship. So it's kind of connected. They usually select the top students at the same time as they select them for admission. They also select them for the scholarship. So this varies from year to year, depending on the competition from other students, but also a little bit depending on the specific selection criteria at that department. So there's no sort of general, yes, if you have this grade, you'll for sure get a scholarship, or if you have this grade, you definitely will not get a scholarship. It's not quite like that. It's more of an holistic approach. So unfortunately, that makes it a little bit hard to predict. And that's why I said, don't rely on the scholarship. Like, don't assume that just because you applied and you have good grades, you're definitely going to get it. I do have a backup, but of course, apply. Everybody's welcome to apply if you have made a complete application for studies.
Absolutely. And then our last question, it actually has to do with the scholarship. So we can finish this off with this question since it's our last one. But someone is asking if it's possible to fund the entirety of their program with the Global Scholarship combined with the Colfuturo agreement.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Your funding is very generous, so that should definitely cover it together with our scholarship, but definitely. There are a couple of programs that I mentioned that cost more. I don't remember now off the top of my head what your top amount is, but there might be some programs in art specifically that cost slightly more, but otherwise it shouldn't be a problem to cover the full tuition fee. But obviously you also need funding for living costs. And if you're going to fund both of those things entirely, that depends a little bit on the fee of the specific program. Yeah, but in many cases, students manage with that combination. And also I want to say that some students who are selected for Colfuturo also apply for our scholarship and might get a higher scholarship amount from us, not just the 25% that's a part of our agreement, but might get 50% or 75%, and then they can use the Colfuturo money more for living costs. So it depends a little bit there what the outcome is of all their applications.
Wonderful, Maria. Thank you so much. So that were our questions for now. I am going to hand the floor to Catalina. If you can tell us a little bit about your experience. I don't know if you want to do it in English or in Spanish, but the floor is yours.
Okay, hi. I guess it's better if I speak Spanish. I don't know. Okay, I need to change my mindset because the thing now that I'm living here is like sometimes when I listen English too often, it's challenging sometimes to change to Spanish, but I'm gonna try. So first of all, thanks to Maria for inviting me to talk about my experience. It's really exciting. I'm gonna introduce myself in English and then I'm gonna speak in Spanish, I promise. So my name is Catalina. My background is psychology. I did a master in public health. And also, I also a holder from Full Futuro, and that means that I also get the 25% of the scholarship from Lund. And because of that, I had a lot of chances in the university. Like, for instance, I'm also a student ambassador, or I used to be a student ambassador. And that means that I had the chance to talk with prospective students through the university system, as Maria recalled earlier. So that is really nice, because it's a chance for you guys to talk with the students about the specific program that you might be interested in. And also try to, sometimes if you are lucky, you're gonna talk with people that is able to speak in your own language. And of course, that makes easier the whole process to answer some questions regarding the tuition fee. Well, we don't talk about tuition fee, that's a mistake. But for instance, like the life experience as a student, and also what is the pros and cons to, for instance, try to work and study at the same time, and so on. So that's really nice. So yeah, I was volunteering as a student ambassador, and that was really nice. And the public health program is in Malmo. So I was living in Malmo, which for me, that I'm from Bogota, it was great, because that means like, I mean, of course, Bogota is bigger than Malmo, but then I still feel like I was living in a city. So that was really nice. Lund is a beautiful city. It's a student city. And you can, of course, have like the whole student life there. And it's totally different than Colombia. So that's why I would recommend, if you want to give a chance to Lund, it's an amazing opportunity. You can try it, and you're going to have a totally different experience that we have in Colombia with our universities and so on. Okay, so I'm going to try to speak Spanish now. ¿Qué recomendaciones les puedo dar? Nosotros tenemos diferentes cambios con la luz. Por ejemplo, en Colombia, ustedes saben muy bien, nosotros no tenemos, es decir, el día y la noche es la misma todo el año. En cambio, aquí en Suecia no. Por ejemplo, ahorita estamos en verano, entonces, aunque ya la luz está disminuyendo, aquí amanece sobre las 5:40 de la mañana más o menos, y anochece sobre las 9 de la noche. Pero en el invierno es todo lo opuesto. Amanece sobre las 9 de la mañana y anochece sobre las 3:30 de la tarde. Y eso a nosotros, que no estamos acostumbrados a ese cambio de luz, pues nos afecta bastante. Entonces, ¿qué recomendaciones les puedo dar? Traigan cosas de Colombia que les recuerden, pues, su hogar, sus amistades, las cosas que les pueda subir el ánimo, porque indudablemente para nosotros, yo diría, más que el frío que se pueda sentir, lo que nos puede afectar anímicamente y nos puede sacudir un poco durante nuestro proceso de estudios es lo que tiene que ver con la oscuridad. No estamos acostumbrados y eso pega indudablemente, y pega bastante duro. En relación con la comida, también les diría, traigan cosas que aquí no se consigue. ¿Qué no se consigue en Suecia? Bocadillo, por ejemplo. Entonces, si ustedes aman el bocadillo como yo lo amo, les recomendaría que traigan bocadillo, o que traigan algún dulce o alguna cosa que por supuesto no les vaya a implicar a ustedes un problema durante su llegada a Suecia. Y pues de nuevo, que les recuerde y les conecte con la casa. Yo en serio los motivo a que se presenten a Lund University, y a través de Full Futuro es una muy buena experiencia. ¿Qué les podría yo decir? Bueno, yo como estudiante de salud pública, como les digo, tuve la oportunidad también de ser embajadora en la universidad, y es bastante bueno, pero adicional a eso, hay miles de oportunidades como estudiantes. Por ejemplo, yo vi una de las preguntas que hablaban sobre los descuentos como estudiantes. Eso los tenemos a través de unas, como les digo, una especie de afiliaciones, como de carnet. Eso es algo adicional, pero hay diferentes tipos. Por ejemplo, hay una que es a través de las naciones, que es algo, hagan de cuenta, una especie de hermandades como se manejan en Estados Unidos, pero en Suecia tiene un enfoque diferente. Y esas hermandades, como bien decía María, ofrece, por ejemplo, también la posibilidad de concursar para tener vivienda, de participar en actividades. Lund, como es una ciudad universitaria, pues ofrece, por ejemplo, estas hermandades, estas naciones ofrecen, si ustedes quieren participar en deportes, si ustedes quieren participar en alguna reunión, en alguna fiesta, si quieren ser un host. Eso es bastante interesante, y pues es la vida que les brinda Lund y que brinda una ciudad universitaria como Lund. Vivir en el sur de Suecia, que es donde está ubicado Lund, pues tiene muchísimos beneficios, por ejemplo, en relación con el hiking, en relación con actividades con la naturaleza. Por ejemplo, ahorita en el verano tuvimos la opción del Summer Ticket, que eso pues lo maneja la región y es por un costo por 2 meses. Uno puede viajar a cualquier parte de la región del sur de Suecia y pues conocer un montón de sitios, es súper chévere. Además, tenemos playas acá también, entonces también, digamos, para el verano, cuando ustedes están en el verano, pues se pueden relajar, es súper chévere. Bueno, algo súper importante es lo que tiene que ver con las notas. El sistema de calificación, el sistema de estudio es completamente diferente de Colombia y eso es importante que lo tengamos presente. En Colombia estamos acostumbrados a que un semestre inicia y si tenemos 4 cursos, 4 materias, las vemos en paralelo durante los 4 o 5 meses del semestre. Aquí en Suecia no funciona así. Uno estudia una materia por mes y eso significa que son cursos intensivos. Entonces, cualquier tiempo libre que uno tiene, en realidad tiene que dedicárselo a estudiar, bien sean las lecturas, bien sean los trabajos en grupo. Además, aquí en Lund se privilegia mucho el trabajo en grupo, entonces en cada asignatura es muy probable que ustedes vayan a ver algún trabajo en grupo. Y a diferencia, de nuevo, con el sistema de Colombia, donde pues tenemos un promedio, entonces si usted saca un examen 3.5, pues le queda esa nota. Aquí no funciona así. Dependiendo de la maestría, el sistema de calificación puede cambiar un poco. En mi maestría, la calificación era pasó, no pasó o pasó con distinción. Si por alguna razón no llegan a pasar, no se asusten, simplemente tienen que, pues, les dan una segunda oportunidad para que vuelvan a presentar un examen o un trabajo, lo que sea que hayan fallado, y pasen. Aquí el sistema funciona de forma tal que el objetivo es que yo aprenda y no como que gane y una nota simplemente por ganar. Por supuesto, el objetivo es terminar la maestría a tiempo, no dejar nada represado, pero en caso de llegar a pasar, esas son las opciones que ustedes tienen. Siempre se puede hablar con el profesor, siempre se puede como llegar a exponer alguna situación particular que se pueda estar viviendo. Esto también me lleva a mencionar que es importante que pidan ayuda si la necesitan. Entonces, por ejemplo, pues Lund cuenta con el servicio de salud, donde hay psicólogos que pueden apoyar con temas relacionados con estrés y ansiedad o depresión por situaciones relacionadas con los estudios. Y pues también ofrecen un departamento de escritura y un departamento de apoyo académico. Por ejemplo, si alguno de ustedes tiene alguna deficiencia auditiva, Lund puede apoyar con eso. O si sienten que sus habilidades en inglés no son lo suficientemente buenas y necesitan apoyo, por ejemplo, para que les ayuden a corregir o a aprender mejor cómo escriturar un texto en inglés. Las maestrías aquí en su mayoría suelen ser investigativas, eso también es algo como para considerar. Y creo que no se me escapa nada más. Hay mucho que decir, pero realmente lo que yo motivaría es a presentarse. Vale muchísimo la pena. Es una gran experiencia. Y pues bueno, ya, eso sería todo.
Muchas gracias, Catalina. Muchísimas gracias. Aquí veo una preguntita. Alguien pregunta si puede llevar a su mascota, a su perro.
Eso es una pregunta difícil. Yo te diría que sí, es decir, yo tengo por ejemplo, tuve una compañera de Estados Unidos que ella viajó con su gato, ¿sí? Entonces, el asunto es que, por ejemplo, en las acomodaciones que son de Lund, tú no puedes tener mascotas. Entonces, si tú vas a viajar con tu perro o con tu gato, pues tienes que viajar, tienes que pensar en que la acomodación tendría que ser privada y que te permitan tener tu perro contigo. Conseguir vivienda en Suecia es un reto. Entonces, hay que aprovechar que Lund, a los que no somos europeos, nos brinda la posibilidad de acomodación y pues aplicar en las fechas que ellos nos brindan, porque en verdad conseguir vivienda en Suecia es complicado. No es broma, no es chiste, si lo han escuchado y dicen como que exagerados, no, es cierto, es completamente cierto, es muy difícil.
Listo, muchísimas gracias, Catalina. No veo que haya otra pregunta. Alejandra, no sé si tú tengas preguntas por tu lado.
No tenemos más preguntas. Creo que todo quedó súper claro. Muchas gracias, Catalina, por aceptar nuestra invitación. Creo que fue súper útil. Igualmente recuerden que esta grabación, este webinar está siendo grabado y en los próximos días vamos a enviarlo también a sus correos electrónicos. Entonces, no sé si Catalina quieras dejarnos tu correo en el chat. Si alguien quiere preguntarte algo, pues ya súper específico para que se pueda contactar contigo. Y bueno, creo que aquí ya empezaron a llegar las preguntas. Felipe nos pregunta, ¿cuál fue tu mayor reto?
Bueno, yo me vine a estudiar en plena pandemia, entonces indudablemente eso cambió todo, porque por ejemplo, la mayoría de mis cursos fueron virtuales. Yo diría como tal vez un 70%, 80% de los cursos fueron virtuales. Entonces, digamos que el mayor reto fue adaptarme al hecho de que era todo en inglés, de que yo estaba sola, de que por motivos de la virtualidad no tenía a mis compañeros al lado como para tal vez preguntar cosas o interactuar con ellos como normalmente lo haría en el aula de clase. Entonces, eso sumado al hecho de que pues, era en inglés y por más de que uno se prepare y tenga herramientas en inglés, no es lo mismo cuando tú llegas y todo el tiempo tienes que defender en inglés y tratar de entender sueco, porque si bien Suecia es un país abiertamente bilingüe y no se deben preocupar si no tienen ni idea de sueco, sí es importante comenzar a entender cosas del idioma cuando estás acá. ¿Sí? Entonces, por ejemplo, las cosas del mercado, y como, bueno, por ejemplo, hay palabras que cambian muchísimo entre el inglés y el sueco para referirse a las verduras o a la comida propiamente. Entonces, son cosas que uno se va adaptando, pero pues eso implica pues un reto. Y un reto también porque uno llega con muchísimas expectativas, es decir, generalmente, por ejemplo, los Arrival Days en Lund son el 15 el 16 de agosto de este año, y tú empiezas a estudiar el último día de agosto o los últimos días de agosto. Antes de eso tienes como unos orientation days, que eso depende del programa. Entonces, claro, tú vas teniendo muchos estímulos y uno como que no termina de ubicarse, sumado al jet lag, entonces siempre al comienzo va a ser como ese reto de organizarse y tal. Nosotros, por lo que yo les decía, como los estudios son diferentes en términos de organización pues de los cursos y todo esto, entonces también como entender que tener ese tiempo libre no es para que yo no haga nada, sino que tengo que tratar de organizarme para cumplir con los deadlines que establece la universidad. Entonces yo creo que el reto es como tratar de ajustarse un poco a eso. Yo diría que por ahí fue mi reto, pues sumado que yo llegué en plena pandemia. Ustedes van a llegar ya en un momento donde no hay restricciones, donde la pandemia sí está controlada, entonces pues eso hace una enorme, enorme diferencia.
Gracias. Y en cuanto a tu aplicación, ¿qué recomendación le puedes dar a las personas? No sé, en cuanto al tiempo de preparación o así, cosas súper específicas, ¿qué les podrías recomendar?
Bueno, eso es una excelente pregunta. Mi recomendación, y yo también lo digo mucho como embajadora de la universidad, es revisen en detalle cada programa que ofrece, porque la mayoría de veces las personas cuando fallan con las aplicaciones es porque no revisan la información completa. Y ahí sobre eso hay números, o sea, hay información, y de hecho en los webinars que hace la universidad, que hacen los profesores o los directores de programas, recalcan mucho eso. Mira, a veces rechazamos tantas aplicaciones porque la gente no envió la información completa. Un poco lo que se llamaría con el examen de inglés. Como que no confiarse en que, se lo puedo mandar después. No, revisen con mucho detalle. Hay maestrías que piden un portafolio completo, entonces hay que revisar con tiempo, porque claro, hay unos requerimientos generales que todos pues cumplimos, pero ya los requerimientos específicos hay gente que no los revisa con detalle. Entonces yo diría, tómense su tiempo, revísenlo. Por ejemplo, en mi maestría en su momento yo tuve que hacer un ensayo y tuve que responder 2 preguntas específicas, entonces obviamente había que sacarle el tiempo para hacer eso, sumado pues de nuevo los requerimientos generales. Entonces yo diría que revisar mucho eso, hagan uso de las herramientas que les ofrece cada maestría. Por ejemplo, los directores de programa tienen toda la buena actitud para responderle a una pregunta. Yo en su día le escribí al director de programa de mi maestría una duda que yo tenía y sobre eso tomé decisiones. Entonces, hagan eso. Lo que yo les digo, los embajadores, úsenlos. Entonces tenemos Unibody. Unibody es el sistema que maneja la universidad para que te contactes con estudiantes que ya están ahí y que te pueden orientar en cosas que quizás te da pena preguntarle al director del programa. ¿Sí? Entonces, usan también esos recursos. Es decir, hay diferentes mecanismos. También hay otra, los webinars que hace la universidad. La universidad ahorita en octubre, si mal no estoy, puede sacar webinars de diferentes maestrías. Revísenlos también, así como están hoy conectados acá, conéctense a esos webinars porque van a despejar dudas generales y les van a dar la opción de despejar dudas específicas a través de los correos electrónicos también.
Listo, muchísimas gracias, Catalina. Bueno, ya creo que no hay más preguntas y se nos acabó el tiempo, entonces muchísimas gracias. Thank you so much, Maria. Thank you so much, Catalina, for your time and for all the information.